Hey everybody, this is Talkative Carl back again for another movie spoiler review for the month of February. And this one is one of the classics, one of the classic Brad Pitt films, Meet Joe Black. It is directed by Martin Brest, I know. And of course, Brad Pitt plays Joe Black slash young man in coffee shop slash death. Also stars Anthony Hopkins as Bill Parrish, Claire Fortani as Susan Paris, the daughter, the youngest daughter, Jake Weber as Drew, the fiance of Susan, uh, Marcia Gay Harden as Allison Paris, the oldest daughter, Jeffrey Tambor as Quince, Allison's husband. So the movie opens. I mean, of course, this movie is. I want to start off by saying it's based off. It's kind of like a remake off of a 1934 film called Death Takes a Holiday. You'll see why in a minute. Where we meet this media mogul named Bill Parrish, who's very wise, astute, a very good natured man, but hard but fair. And he's been his oldest daughter is preparing for his 65th birthday in the coming week or so. And Bill's been hearing this voice in his own voice about like, yes is the answer to your question. I didn't answer any question. Yes, you did. It's a very mysterious voice. He doesn't know where it's coming from, but he's ignoring it. But he is concerned for Susan, who is a resident at a hospital in New York. And Susan, he explains to Susan, like, do you really love Drew? Honestly, because we love somebody, they kind of like sweep you off your feet as though it's a lightning strike twice. You're supposed to love is, very, is important, and person should be like, like head over heels. He's got like, this person, like, hey, this is like one that really, like, sets my soul on fire kind of thing. But clearly she doesn't have those type of feelings. I'm not sure how she got involved with Drew. She clearly, like, outside looking in, clearly not like all of her heart's a flutter with this dude. Clearly the relationship was kind of like superficial. Not sure why she even choosing to marry this dude. Seems like it's going to be doomed to fail if you're, don't have any type of level of attraction to this dude. So while she goes into the city, this diner, before she starts work, she meets up with this dude. Never gets the guy's name, but they get to talking, and he's very charming, very funny, and he's mentioning he's just coming to the cities, getting ready to buy up an apartment and stuff like that. And she's obviously smitten with him. As they part, he goes in the opposite direction, crosses the street, and it's been memed to death. And it was jarring when I first watched this, because I had inkling something might happen, but they even leaned forward into this, whereas, like, I knew he was about to get hit by a car, but no, they didn't just do it with one car, which would have been sufficient enough. No, he get hit by at least 3 cars, and he's like ping-ponging in the air. I was like, wow, that's kind of gratuitous. Somebody must hate Brad Pitt for some reason. I'm not sure why they had to go that route, but later, while Bill is at his office, he's clearly having like a heart attack, and he's hearing his voice again. It's like, I'll see you soon. Later on, Bill's clearly like distracted. He's not really focused. Then he hear the voice again. It's like, I'm at the door, Bill. Will you let me in? And he gets one of his servants to open up the door. And he goes to his library and he meets up with the young man, but he's not the young man anymore. He's, admits that he is deaf. That he heard, because he was about to Bill's time has come, and he was going to go ahead and take his life, but he overheard pretty much like the dialogue he had with his daughter, and he was intrigued. So he decides to inhabit this guy's body. You later hear he kind of put him in some kind of pocket dimension. I'm not sure what, but then mentions that I want to live the life of a human. I want to experience certain things that you explained to your daughter. It's like, I want that for myself. I went all over this earth doing my job, but I never really experienced life. I always took it because it's my job, but I never really experienced it, for myself. I'm surprised that about all this millennia that death never came up with this idea until now. It's kind of weird. But he's like, I make a deal with you, Bill. I will stave off your death as long as my interest still is, as long as my interest is still piqued. So he wants to spend time with Bill and his family and friends, experience things like, human camaraderie, and he's never eaten before, so he's not learning how to drink, eat, and using basic utensils. So Bill introduces the family and to him, and he's just referred to him as Joe Black, and he says he's just a old friend of his. And of course, it's when Susan showed up, she's a little astonished to see him. Of course, she thinks this is some kind of underhanded thing just to get close to my father and use me to do that. Of course, Death doesn't know what the hell she's talking about. She assumes that this, the man he is borrowing as a meat suit, but he's very just oblivious and just learning. He's just observing. He's not picking up certain social cues, but kind of he learns over time, and that's the whole point of this whole experiment. So he follows Bill to work, even though it's kind of unnerving, but he expressed to Bill, it's do not let anybody know who I am, because if you do, then this whole deal is completely done, and I will take you immediately, and that'll be that. And it's this funny little dynamic where it's he's literally sitting in Bill's board meeting, and of course they have cookies on the table, and he's gathering cookies, and he's playing around with his the spinning chair and everything like that. It's completely distracting the whole room, and it's cancel cookies. It's and the lady in the room is the stenographer. I'm not sure what she was, but the assistant brought in some more cookies, and Drew's just getting irritated. I was you good? Yes, I am, Bill. It's completely not it kind of reminds me of Lucifer from the Netflix show. It's he doesn't really care about certain social cues, how irritated this guy is. It's okay, sure. It's yes, I am, Bill. and it's then Bill starts talking to, not Bill, Drew starts talking to Bill about the merger, which to this other media conglomerate, which Bill is adamantly against. uh and Drew made this comment about like the deal is as certain as death and taxes, and then this perked Joe's ears, like death and taxes. Oh, I never heard that. Yeah, I never heard that before. Did you make that up? Like, no, I didn't, Joe. Huh? Why would you say it? It's just a term. It's just a saying. Why'd you say it? It's like, oh, I never heard of it. Well, I'm glad I can help. My door is always open if you want to learn about other phrase, sayings, idioms, whatever. Just being like completely like just like his irritation, just like wearing it on his sleeve. And of course Bill just quickly squashed that. So Bill instructs, because he's irritated at the fact that what's going on with death and then his impending death, and his fact that his whole company that he's built from the ground up is probably going to get seized by people that he doesn't believe will run it the way like he run it. And he's going to run into the ground possibly, and he's not having it. So he instructs Joe to like go out in the middle of the city, just like explore whatever. He just needs time to himself for a minute. He goes to see Susan at her job. He's like, he said, I just want to visit you. That's like, I at work, and doctors don't get visits. And then an old Jamaican woman who she's looking after, who's terminally ill, she is sensing that this dude is death. And it's like, oh my God, don't take me, mister. And of course, kudos to Brad Pitt, because he's actually probably have to learn a bit of Jamaican lingo. And he's speaking it very like, like, I mean, I'm not Jamaican, but the way he's carried on, it's like he very like astute, like he was raised on the islands. Is very good. And he has like a private time because nobody believes the old lady, thinks she's crazy or something. And she beseeched to Death, like, please take me, mister. The pain, I can't do it. And Death explained to her, like, it's not your time now. Of course, you think about Death like an angel or any type of otherworldly being who can be around the world, will have like instant knowledge on how to speak the language of the section of the planet. So it's like, yeah, like it's like, it's not your time now. Yeah, let the doctor treat you. So I don't know what he does, but he puts his hands on her to at least alleviate her pain temporarily, because it hurts that much. So he just like, okay, I'll just do the little thing here. I'm not sure what it is, but he just kind of like takes the pain briefly away, just so she can like be comfortable for a while. But of course it won't last. Then it's like when Susan shows back up, he then comes to understand, like, maybe my presence here is not a good idea. I'm gonna go, knowing full well there's probably a bunch of other old people who's probably imminent, who's well, at least not just old people, probably anybody who might be imminent on approaching death will probably see him, because I imagine that if you're about to die, then, I mean, I don't know, there's some cases, or not some cases, but like, different like media will have you see like, like an angel of death or something like that, that will signify like, yeah, I'm here to take you, essentially. Like you see something like that in Neil Gaiman's Sandman kind of thing. So that's happened. The more time Joe spends with the family, he is getting a little bit more smitten with Susan. Oh, I almost forgot. Two things. One, when he meets up with the servants, one of them is like having like making us like a peanut butter jelly sandwich, and he's curious about the peanut butter, and it's like he, takes like a spoon and scoops up some and hands him the spoon, and Death is like, yeah, peanut butter man now, so I believe I am. It's like, never had peanut butter in his life, or not life. But also, when he's walking in the street with Joe, when Joe's walking the street with Bill asks like, why are you here with me? Like, who's doing the thing that you're typically doing? And Joe puts like this, when you're brushing your teeth this morning, you wasn't just brushing your teeth, were you? You was thinking about like, all the work that you have to do, the paperwork and, things that you got to be drawn up, all these other things going through your mind. Now, take all that, multiply it by infinity, and take it to the depths of the universe, and you might get an inkling on what I do. Essentially, it's like I can do two things at once. Like, I can essentially be everywhere. And it kind of reminds me of like Bruce Almighty with Morgan Freeman's interpretation of God, where it's like, I can leave this certain section of Buffalo to you to look after while I got everything else. Because like I can multitask essentially. And so I imagine it's just like with Death, like he can multitask. He's been doing this for a long time. I'm pretty sure he got down to a science. So he doesn't really need to be physically present all the time. So I like that too component. I love that line of dialogue on how to describe what he does, where it's just like you understand but you don't understand at the same time, because it's like beyond human understanding. But it's just like, it's a lot. Trust me, I got this. You don't have to worry about my job. I'm taking care of it, even as we speak, kind of situation. Drew, in the meantime, is wants the merger to happen because it's for his own self-interest. Decides to secretly convene with the board behind Bill's back, thinking like, who is this Joe person? And for all these years, nobody ever told Bill what to do. But suddenly he answers to whatever Joe thinks is okay. So this gives pause to the board. It's like, does he have all his faculties together? Because he never asked for anybody's help before, or doesn't follow anybody's suggestion but his own. So while that's going on, Susan and Joe get close because her and Drew just, not compatible. Joe and Susan end up having sex, and this is like a new sensation for Death because he never experienced the pleasures of the flesh. And he's, and of course, just like any first timer, it's like you're hooked on the person. And he's like, I'm in love with this woman. And this goes against the extra deal that he made with Bill, where it's like, look, I will keep you a secret, but I want you to make a deal, promise me something, that the arrangement that you and I have will stay between us. So don't involve yourself with my family. And that was the initial deal. But now that he's got caught up with Susan, Bill's, is furious that it's like I didn't want you being involved with my daughter. She doesn't know who you are, and I'm not having that. And it's like, in Death's mind, it's like, little you can do about it. I like your daughter. So the day is approaching to the birthday, and now the board is like threatening to oust Bill, but you'll get a nice severance package, like a golden parachute kind of thing. You'll never want for nothing for the rest of your life because you make such a marker on this company. You'll still be the face of it, blah blah blah. But all intents and purposes, all intents and purposes, you're out kind of situation. So this also adds to Bill's frustration. But then we got this whole dynamic with the older daughter who feels kind of left out because Bill obviously favors the younger daughter, which he doesn't mean to, but it's a nice little moment on the day of the party where he's explaining to, it's kind of making him knowing that his days come, because like he's not going to be here forever, especially knowing he got a legit timetable now. He's making like peace with certain people, more specifically his daughters, and he expressed to his oldest daughter that like, I appreciate everything you've done. If I feel like you feeling like left out, that's on me. I apologize, because no parent should ever do that to their kid. And it's a nice little moment where he makes the oldest child feel loved and just as important as the other child. Because more often than not, you see the things like that with like, the first child is kind of like the experiment, or not experiment, but it's like trial and error before other kids come, where now you got down to a science. So you kind of like, just like how the middle child gets like looked over kind of situation, and the youngest seems a little bit more of a favor because they're a little precious kind of thing. It's always a dynamic like that. Usually parents don't mean to do that, but it tends to happen every once in a while. Joe and Bill has a discussion where Joe explains to Bill like, your daughter's gonna come with us. I don't want to leave without her because I'm falling in love with her. And Bill points out like, you don't love her, because if you did, you would have told her everything about you. Because kind of harken to like what Quint's trying to explain to Joe earlier, because he's feeling a little guilty about spilling the beans about the dynamic between, not the true dynamic between Joe and Bill, just surface level, like, oh yeah, like Bill's been doing whatever Joe says kind of situation, and he just told the truth, what he observed. But he feels guilty that he feels like, oh, because of what I said, it allowed Drew to mosey on in and do what he did. But Joe explains like about talking to him about love, and like, and Quince explains to him, which is very real, that true love between another person is like, the only reason I know my wife loves me is because she, with all my faults, she still loves me anyway. And that's what real love is. You love the person despite certain faults that other people would not like care for, or at least wouldn't entertain kind of thing. And you'll do that vice versa. We all have been in that situation where you're in a relationship with somebody and their faults, but you might find that those faults charming and more appealing than anything that was the good qualities. Like I remember my just on a personal thing, like I remember my ex, she used to snore like crazy when she slept, but I found that kind of cute, and it helped me at a time to fall asleep, because it's kind of like white noise to me after a while. She's a crappy singer, even though she loves Rihanna, she loves singing Rihanna. She was a crappy singer, but I thought that was cute. It's just like the negative stuff, you don't want a person that's perfect, that's boring. It's the imperfect stuff is what you find appealing, and their faults that you know, a lot of times you're drawn to that, and that's what makes you love the person probably even more. Uh, as what Quincy's kind of get by, and what Bill's trying to express to Death is that love is also about sacrifice. And are you willing to sacrifice, you know, make the sacrifice if you truly love her? Which means that if you want to take her, I can't stop you, but you're going to explain to her who you are and let the chips fall where they may, because she only loves the body that you're inhabiting. Whoever that poor soul that you took off this earth and wherever you placed him at, she loves that guy. But you stored him somewhere and you took his body as a suit and you're cosplaying as him. She loves the guy she fell in love with that coffee shop, not you. She doesn't know you. But tell her who you are and see if she still holds that same feelings. And of course, this kind of like gets under Death's skin per se. And so he goes to talk with Susan and gearing up to tell her who he really is, but realizing, yeah, she doesn't love me. She loves this. She really does love this guy that I took. So he says his goodbyes essentially, and she asks, like, would I ever see you again? And it's like, you know, things tend to work themselves out kind of situation. So he goes back to Bill, explains he didn't, it's just gonna be them two leaving, and decides to fix things with Bill's work, because, you know, this last kind of like, it's like a thank you, in essentially, for helping him on this journey. And it's like, I'm not gonna let your company go to ruin when I take you. So they manipulated Drew to show up at the party, and unbeknownst to Drew, Bill gets the board secretly on the phone, like on like a speaker, so they can listen in, but Drew won't know this. And Joe reveals himself as an IRS agent, and I've been monitoring the situation, working with Bill, and to figure out any other things, and it turns out that you are the one who's been double dipping and trying to supplant yourself by ousting Bill, and threatening Bill's like, I mean, not Bill, threatening Drew is like, you know, like, quit now and you won't have to go to jail. And of course, there's a threat that Joe makes where it's clearly like, you know, like, if you carry on like this, I will put you in a place where like there's no windows or bars, no way out. Pretty much alluding that I will pretty much store you wherever you where you probably put the young man that he's inhabiting temporarily. So Drew leaves, the board goes on Bill's side. They celebrate at the party, dances with the younger daughter, says his, you know, heartwarming goodbyes to her. He walks over to Joe, who's standing on a hilltop near a bridge, and Bill asks, should I be afraid? And Death's like, a man like you? Not a chance. So they go over this bridge while the fireworks is going off at the party, and then Susan sees this, and as she's going towards the hilltop, the real man, who we still don't know who his real name is, comes over the other side and is like completely puzzled. Doesn't know what the heck happened. Last thing he remembers is me and her at the coffee shop, but everything else is kind of fuzzy. And they, you know, get close and go back to the party. And that's where the movie ends. But I mean, the biggest criticism at the time people had about this movie, it was kind of longer than it needed to be. I understand, but it wasn't like a big deal to me because I was like enjoying the pace. Oh, and Death does go back to that old lady and takes her after he has like a confusing time about his feelings towards Susan, and she had to explain to him too. There's three people he had to, had to explain to Joe where he had to learn from. He has to learn pretty much like life and love from humans. That she explains to him, your world and our world should not be intermingling. You know that's not right, kind of situation. Uh, she's the only person, like human person, outside of Bill to know who he is. So he can actually confide into, outside of Bill, which is thought was kind of neat. But my biggest issue is like, is clearly like Bill's dead, but where's his body? Anybody find his body? They left very ambiguous. Did he, take him at a certain point, and like as you see Bill walk towards the hilltop, he's just already a spirit or something? But Susan sees both of them clearly, and goes chasing after them. So clearly not. Is his body somewhere on the hilltop or over the other end of things, and he just like laid out? That is confusing to me. I kind of wish it was a little bit more clear, but I guess that would have been, yeah, a dude getting hit by 3 cars. You can't at least let us know how this guy's body is found. So is it, laid out on this bridge somewhere? I don't know. It's kind of something that need to be addressed. But I have fun with this movie. It's a really great movie, like a very classic one, a cult classic. People initially it wasn't well. Certain critics didn't receive it well. It got like a Razzie, and Brad Pitt made a statement about not feeling, as he states, that was the pinnacle of my loss of direction and compass. But a lot of people really enjoyed this movie. It had like a budget of 90 million and raked in 142 million at the box office, so it did fairly well. And a lot of people loved it. I loved it, and sure, maybe it's the length of the time that's felt like unnecessary, but it's not really a big deal to me. It's it's an enjoyable film, very charming in a lot of ways. The actors are all doing a great job. Kind of wish they kind of explain a little bit more about where like they put like who's that young man's name, so that way, because can you imagine Susan could call him Joe and it's like, my name ain't Joe, it's Derek or something like that. I kind of wish they kind of explain that part, as well as explain what happened to Bill's body, because clearly he's dead. I was about to say, like, what about the angels or anything like that, but I guess you don't need to add that part. It's going to probably bogged down with too much crap. But at least explain certain things about how Death does his job exactly. But other than that, it's a fun movie. I really enjoyed it, and it's like just an entity like Death learning about human interaction and love, either on a physical level, emotional level, and spiritual level, and mental level. All things he have to learn, instead of the surface level of love, what he thinks is love, and just taking somebody because he feels like like, I love her, I want her, and that's not what love is. It borders on possession, and that's not what love is. But it's a fun movie. Highly recommend it if you don't mind the 3-hour length. But yeah, but you have like a fun ride. Brad Pitt is amazing, along with Anthony Hopkins, as always. But I will see you guys next week for the final movies to review for the month of March. I mean, not March, February. And those 2 movies will be Fun with Dick and Jane and White Chicks to wrap up February theme month. One last couple movie and one last movie for Black History Month. And it's leap year, so I get like some extra time. So, oh, and by the way, did you know, like in in the world of DC Comics, February 29th is Superman's in-universe birthday. Wild, isn't it? So I'm gonna, probably blast out on the 29th, blast out a whole bunch of Superman stuff, like, say happy birthdays to Superman. It's Superman's birthday. Is my second favorite hero of all time. Anyway, I will see you guys tomorrow for more video game walkthroughs, not walkthroughs, but gameplay. I don't know what I'm going to do, but thinking I'm going to go back to Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel, because I did some updates to Seto Kaiba's cards, so look forward to that. But anyway, I'll see you guys soon. Take care and have a good night. Peace.